All right, well, if you're watching this, I tried to stream earlier today and I was having some weird ISP issues. So I am going to record my stream instead and I'll just post it for y'all to watch later. So there won't be any live interaction as I'm chatting with folks, but that's okay. We'll continue working and just kind of do our thing anyway. So again, if you joined the stream earlier today, I apologize for that. I will... yeah, I'll have to figure out what the heck is going on there, so. All right, I was sending a tweet to say that I'm gonna record, and then I'll share the recording a bit later. So this one's gonna be a little bit more chill, and I'll try to keep on talking as I go, but as I mentioned earlier, I'll start again. This is the Brew Buddy project. Something I've been working on in the streams over the course of the last couple of weeks. I'm just going to continue to work on it here today. We're going to write some code. It actually does a few things to it, but I wanted to share, if you had watched the stream last week, I actually did set up an Azure pipeline that handles building the source and actually working on sort of getting tag releases set up and deployed, which is kind of cool. So what I did last week is I set up a trigger to actually build in a couple of different cases. So it'll build against the master branch and then any feature branches as I'm gonna start working on those more regularly. And then what it does is I will install the Particle CLI, log into the Particle CLI, and then I'll build the firmware for the Particle Argon, target 090, and then save a binary. I then take that binary, copy it over to the artifact staging directory, and then create a GitHub release. And this is the piece that I was still kind of working on a little bit at the end of the stream last week. And I'll go ahead and try to wrap up, or I wrapped up off the stream. And that was basically what I'm doing is, if I'm building from master, so it doesn't actually do the release if I'm building against a feature branch, which is perfect, or a pull request. But if I'm building against master, I'm going to create a GitHub release. I'll tag it with the manual, with the build number. I'm just doing that for now, as opposed to managing tags locally. And then I take the bin directory, or take the bin file, and make sure that that's included in the assets as well. So I can see actually my successful builds here. And then if you go to the repo and take a look at you'll see a couple of different things. One is actually added a little pipeline badge, which is pretty cool. And then the other thing that I did was I added you'll see releases here now. And the releases include the source code and a tarball, which is in there by default, but then I also included the binary. And then a list of changes. So we have a new process. Once I actually do builds to master, that's what the process is going to look like. So what we're going to do today is continue with the firmware here and do a couple of different things, like adding variables for functionality for first detection of fermentation, so that I can show that on the screen. Fix a few things here and there. I'm going to move this one up. Track and display the fermentation rate, and then post fermentation data to the device cloud. So those are the things that we are going to do today. Before I get started there, I am actually going to do a checkout of a new branch. So fermentation management. We'll just call it that. Quite a name, quite a mouthful. And I want to add some variables and functionality for detecting fermentation. So that's a pretty easy thing to do. And you know what? I need to change this actually, because this is fermenting. It really is more of a mode. This is a stage variable. So I'm going to change all of these. Let's see. Change all occurrences to Oh, oh. How about that? Did that change all of them? Yeah, it's fermentation mode. And let's change this one to is brewing mode. Did it change that one too? It did, okay. So is brewing mode is fermentation mode, great. So now what I can do is I'm gonna add a new variable here called is fermenting. And that's for when fermentation actually begins. And then let's add a unsigned long for fermentation start time. That's going to be the number of milliseconds that have passed since the program started that fermentation started. We need to do 2 here. So unsigned long fermentation mode start. So we will set when the fermentation mode is triggered. This will get set. And then the start time will set when the knock sensor picks up the first thing. So great. A few other things that we're going to need here. Let's also add a variable. Let's add a few more. I have an idea about tracking fermentation rate, so I'm going to add a few variables here. So we're going to call one a so this will be basically knocks per second. Knocks per millisecond. Right. And then I'll have an int for knocks detected. We need to come down and deal with all of this. With state management, but for now, I would just want to get down some ideas about things that I anticipate potentially needing when it comes to this, when it comes to doing fermentation or tracking the rate. So fermentation rate, knocks detected, so that'll give me, let's see. I'm storing the analog values in false. Right. Oh yeah, so this is an int 16. So this is going to be, I don't need to know the strength of it. It's the speed. So I was thinking originally I needed to capture that analog value. But actually I don't think that's the case. I don't think I really care about that at all. So knocks detected is fine. Fermentation rate, knocks detected. Oh, how about, yeah, I know what I need here. So I need to have another unsigned long last knock. Last knock as well. Move that down here. So one of the things that I will need to do first is I'm going to create a method for, or a function for setting all of these values back to 0. All of these things sort of back to where they are now. So do that. We'll call this void reset fermentation. Because if I forget to do this, it's gonna there'll be a bug that I will encounter later that will bother me. So all of these, mode start time, the rate, everything just needs to get set back to 0. Oh wait, I'm gonna go back into my user settings. I was working on something else that was messing with format on save, so I wanted to fix, okay. There we go. So, yeah. So we'll reset fermentation mode, set everything back to false. Or how about reset fermentation variables? All right, we'll do that. So we'll call reset fermentation variables here at the beginning of the fermentation mode. Actually, that should be in stop. Let's do it in stop. All right, and I like to compile a lot, so let's do that. Oh wait, I gotta open my. Where are you? Oh, you know what? I have the wrong. Hold on just a second. Bear with me. All right. Just cleaning up my local build. We'll get back to this in just a second. Okay, so now let's do a look, compile. See if we get good news. Changed the soundtrack up a bit today, decided to do some chiptune. Which works. It works for me. All right, that's going, so I'm gonna presume that it's good news. Long build. The first build's always the longest one. Okay. Well, that's doing its thing. Let's think about some other things that I want to deal with here. is in the mode switch, or not in the mode switch, when I have woken, when the knock sensor is woken my device back up, which happens up here. So I actually want to set is fermenting to true. Let's do this. Fermentation has not started yet. I'm going to set as fermenting to true. And I will publish. I'm not going to publish all of these fermentation values because it's not, that was just for testing. All right, build works, so that's good. Do this. I didn't remember to talk a little bit more since I'm not actually live streaming right now. I'm just thinking of the things that I want to do here before fermentation is started. All right, if fermentation hasn't started yet, there's a few things that I want to add to the screen to basically say, hey, fermentation has started, great. And then I'm going to publish an event to basically say, we'll call this and I'm just gonna pass in fermentation state start. That's an event we can subscribe to. So if I'm fermenting, I set those values. I need to check what are the things that I want to have here. Oh yeah, so I need to get my fermentation mode start time set here. I'm losing my head. Sorry for the scrolling. There we go. So I'm going to set my fermentation mode time to millis when the fermentation command comes in. Cool. Take that there. All right, so I'm setting system sleep. I'm setting, this is when the mode started. So by having the fermentation mode time, and then when fermentation begins, I have an idea of the time elapsed between when we asked for fermentation to start and then when it actually started. So there's a few different things that we can do with that. One is that I'm going to print on the screen we'll add this in a second. Print. I'm going to print the delta between the start time mode start and fermentation start. Cool. And then otherwise, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add and display the fermentation rate. Because it's reading another knock. What's happened, I get into this loop when... Oh, here, I'll put this wait until here. There we go. This is just if there's another knock that comes in, which indicates that fermentation has continued, that it's happening again. Yeah. And then here, I want to do last knock. And that's just going to be the number of milliseconds. I'm going to go ahead and build here and then do a check-in because I have my variables. And now I'm kind of on a number 23 here a little bit, so I need to keep that check-in separate. Okay. So that's for number 21. So those two, get add. So now check this out. So I'm in a feature branch now. I'll just show this really quickly. If I go into my fermentation feature branch, and I go into my build pipeline, you should actually see. There we go. I should see another build trigger, which I'll leave this open. I'll come back and check on it in just a minute. But so that will actually close this item once I merge to master and we create another release. But before I do that, I want to close out these two because I think those sort of all make part of, they're all part of the same one. So I have my variables. In fact, here, let's add a column so that I have these. I'm going to add a staged branch so that I have a concept of things that I think are done but not yet merged to master. All right, so now track and display the fermentation rate. I haven't flashed to the firmware yet, or flashed the firmware yet because I don't have anything. These are all just variables that I've been messing with. But I do want to display that rate. So what are the things that I did? So I created a subheading line, fermentation started. And that here, anytime I pick up the rate, or anytime I get another knock, I want to display the rate. And I also want, I think what I need to do here is do my knocks detected. And we'll add to that. So I'm gonna, so basically, I've thought about this over the last couple of days, and I'm not quite certain how I want to how I want to manage calculating this rate. For the temperature sensor, well, I could do this. For the temperature sensor, I'm actually using something called, using this Q array object. This is something that I pulled in that actually allows me to handle basically dynamic sizing. So I can actually do this here as well. So let me see how I'm using Q array. I'm using my temp graph array elsewhere here. For actually showing where I am in for displaying the temperature. I'm actually not doing it. It's possible, since it's been a while since I messed with this, that I'm not actually messing with the Q array. Really? That can't be right. Oh, okay. So it gives me, okay, so I have a count. I can do an NQ, DQ. Yeah, I think that this can work for me so that I can actually calculate the readings based on that. So I don't have to keep track of the, actually I don't have to keep track of the number of knocks. What I can do here instead is do a Q array of long, and we'll call this a knock array. Right, so anytime I get a knock, it's going to need to be a two-dimensional. Hold on. Because let's scratch this out here. Let's say that I have a knock at, oh no, it's not the values. It's going to be, yeah, it's going to be these. It's going to be every millis time. So yeah, I don't need the number of knocks detected. And I don't need last knock. If I get this right. So I can remove last knock. Because what I can do instead is in knock array, I can add an item to the queue, and that'll just be the current millis. No. It's not the current millis. It's the difference between the current millis and the last millis. Okay. Math. So I don't need to track this. I think I do want to have the last knock though. I do want to have that. But the last knock is going to be a couple of different values. If fermentation hasn't started, so fermentation hasn't started, this will be fermentation start time. And last knock, we'll just set that to fermentation start time. For this one to begin. And that's all we're doing, because we don't have enough information to calculate a rate yet. And then, no, oops. If we are fermenting, right, if fermentation has started, then my last knock is going to be millis. It's basically going to be millis minus the last knock, which will be the time between the last knock and the current amount of time. So if it's like 1,000 milliseconds since we started the sketch, and then it's 1,005, this would be a value of 5. So that's 5 milliseconds between. Number of milliseconds between knocks, right? And then we'll set the last knock to the current. And then our value of fermentation rate will be, we'll do, just for now, I'm just going to add another thing for fun. So my fermentation rate is going to be I'm going to have to DQ all of these items off, right? So from here, I'll just do this. Current rate. It'll just be fermentation rate. That's probably not going to work, but that's how we're going to start for now. We're kind of hacking at this a little bit at a time. Yeah, it needs to be a string. It's fine. So I have an array of knocks. So if I have two of these, basically, if I have a value, if I have two values, one that's 2 seconds and one that's 4 seconds, my average is 3. So what I need to do is calculate an average from all of these values. And I wonder if I should do that I want to, yeah, peak. Okay. All right, I'm going to check my build. All right. Yay. And I didn't create a GitHub release because I'm not in the master branch. So the Azure thing is working, even if I'm struggling to wrap my head around how to do this here. Because I don't know why I'm I mean, ultimately, I don't know why this is, I don't know why I am not thinking of the right way to do this, so that's okay. All right, because yeah, I need to sum all the values and then do an average. So I wonder if, is that something that I should build in? I'm trying to decide if I should build that in or just do it myself. And I think what I'll do for now is that I will just do it myself. Right, so we're gonna create something. And so we're gonna call it get fermentation rate. Right, is this all long? Yep. All right, so that'll give us our fermentation rate, and what I'm going to do is just go through each item in the array. And we're going to go for, because what am I doing down here? I mean, to manipulate the, I have a loop down here. Yeah, temp graph array.count. And this is knock array. So I have my count, right? So for that, all right, let's just do this. So we're going to need to use it twice. All right, ni equals 0, int array count, blah, 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 right? And then we'll do the sum. So this way will be, all right. And this will be sum of knock array. I get an individual item. I'm forgetting how to do that. Oh, it's doing a DQ on each of those. I just want to do a get. Oh, right. I know what's happening there. Knockarray.get. What is it? Peak. What is, Hold on. Oh, you know what? I need to be doing a push up here anyway. Yeah, okay. But what is peak actually doing for me here? It gets the front of the queue. So this should work for me, but I'm trying to. I don't want to remove an item from the queue. Although I suppose what I'm doing here, right? What I'm doing here is dequeuing and then inqueuing, which is something I could do. Dequeue the current item, inqueue it back to the end. And I won't hit an infinite loop because I'm treating the count. Yeah, all right. I can do that. So here we'll do knockarray dot dequeue. There's sum plus equals current val. And then we will do knockarray.dequeue inqueue. Just put an item at the end. So when all is said and done, that will get us the sum. And then we can return a rate. Will be sum divided by rate count. Return the rate. So let's compile that. Okay, that worked. Yay. Put up another tab here to do my, it's still on the same. Oh no, it's not. Nope. Is my Argon on? I'm gonna quickly just put this in DFU mode so that I can flash it here in a minute. There we go. Took a second. It's silly that I had to Stack Overflow looking up how to take an average, but whatever. Sometimes the brain does silly, tricky things. So I think I'm good there. Count, DQ, NQ. That'll get me the fermentation rate, and I can display that on the screen. And that'll happen only after things have started. I'm going to do a follow on the particle serial monitor so I can see things happening here. Oh wait, not there. I'm gonna go ahead and flash. Let's just do a local flash application local, and wait for things to come back online. We are drawing to the screen. Yay. We're online. So now I should be able to set fermentation mode. And now, let's see. I'm seeing fermentation started on the screen. I should have a message that comes as soon as the device is reconnected. Yep. And I get a value. All right, so there is something that popping up on the screen. There's a few things that I need to fix. Obviously, I want to rewrite that area every time. Not just write current rate over and over again, but I think that's at least working. It seems to be doing its thing. So I'm gonna click stop, or type stop, and we'll go back through there. Let's try that again. So like I'd said last time, when I click ferment, when I set that to ferment, you'll notice what happens is the LED goes off, the device is in sleep mode. So it's actually waiting to detect fermentation. When it picks up fermentation, it comes out of sleep mode, and then it reconnects to the particle device cloud. And then as soon as that happens, I can start actually waiting for fermentation to happen again. Once it gets connected. It's picking up those values, so cool. I think for the sake of my math, I actually want to post this to the device cloud as well so that I can see what's going on. Sort of the last difference between the two. So let me do this. We'll flash again. Okay, we're online. I'm going to trigger fermentation mode. All right, well, it's in. It is reconnecting. And then I'm going to get a couple, tap it a couple of times and see what I get. Okay, so that's a couple of values. So that was the difference between when fermentation started and when I tapped it, right? No. What am I doing for the first value? Last knock equals fermentation start time. Which is okay because I'm not putting anything to the array yet until I get that second knock. And that's what I want. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, pretty happy with that. I think it's a good. I think it's good. So what I want to fix really quickly is that the fermentation rate thing keeps changing. So if I tap this again, it's going to be, should be a really, yep, a really large value. What's that? Giant value. Is that really the number of milliseconds? What? All right. All right. So I should think out loud a little bit more. I'm going to stop this, and then I want to, when I update the screen, I actually want to look at what I'm doing to actually update the screen during the brewing process. All right. So just doing a fill with black. So here, so you can see if I start brewing, you'll see that I have a few different things. There's the wort temp, there's the elapsed time in history. And I'm displaying each of those headings. So let me add myself another one here. Actually, the wort temp one, this is what I want, because that's in a good spot. I'm going to do this in a similar area. And we'll do this display fermentation heading. think that should show up. Hopefully that won't wrap to the next line. But that's what I want to do. And then do something here. Sorry, I'm gonna look at something else for displaying the time. Set that to here. It's not what I want to do. I want to display the temperature. So, sorry. I'll go back to where the temperature is being displayed. Right there. Rate. Probably need to do something to convert it, but for now we'll start with that. Yeah, I think this is pretty good. So that'll give us, let's see. Excuse me. So what I'll do is fermentation started. This line, oh, actually it's gonna be my title line. And I'll draw the fermentation right here. Display fermentation heading. And we'll do display fermentation rate here. Okay. I need to do the math to actually make that a per second. This is just going to be milliseconds right now, but I'll mess with that in just a minute. Because I want to print a... I'm going to do a heading line for temperature. Right, which would be, let's see. Oh, let's just do this. No. Is that? Yeah. Okay. So where it says fermentation started, this is what I'm going to do. We're gonna do that. Do a print line, fermentation started. And specify the rate. There, okay. So now let's do a local flash. Wait for it to load up, set it into the right mode. All right, I'm gonna set it into fermentation mode. It's going to wait, go to sleep, do our thing, kick it out. So you see the value getting smaller because I'm messing with it. So our math there seems right. Cool. You can make that even bigger though. And I'm gonna fix this. Fix where fermentation is happening. Why am I doing it? Oh. Display fermentation, right? Let's see. Let's just do the same thing as these other ones. We're setting a size. I will do the same. Where's that? Let's do the same as the time and set our fermentation rate. Big, big, big. All right, and this comes back online. How often should I post the fermentation data? That's another question. Actually, temperature and or fermentation data. We should check that. That actually kind of goes along with this one of separating intervals for reading the temperature and posting to the cloud. So let me think about that one for just a second. While this comes back online. So we're waiting for fermentation. It's taking a second. Come on. We good now? But let's format that. Let's format that correctly. And where did I put? All right, we can put this one down on the next line. Let's move this one down just a tad. Otherwise it's gonna mess up the... All right, and then the other thing I wanna do is actually take the, let's see. When I calculate fermentation rate, oh yeah, I'm gonna make a note for myself of this. Display time lapsed. To that. It's like a round. It's not a big deal. Okay. Letting that do its thing. Okay. Click that. When it comes back on, we'll check it out. Tap it some more, see some values. So if I wait longer, you can see the value goes up, as opposed to shorter. All right. That's cool. Bit of a baseline, but we got something there. So I'm gonna call that good. I think we got a good job tracking and displaying the fermentation rate. Let's take a look at what we added. Yeah. And this is number 23, so git check-in, no. All right. So I pushed these two items, and I think I'm going to go ahead and do a build now. So I'm going to wrap up here in a few minutes. Or do a pull request, excuse me. So I have two commits in here. Added fermentation variables and added fermentation rate logic. I feel pretty good about those things. So I'm going to create my pull request, and you'll notice here that I have my Azure build pipeline doing its thing. I'm going to come over here and keep an eye on it. So this is my pull request build. And that's just going to make sure that everything works. When I get the all okay on this one, then I'm going to merge into master, and I'll get a separate build that goes through, that actually then goes and creates the release for me, which is pretty cool. So it looks like, yeah, one of these has been checked, the other one hasn't. That's what's happening right now. Installing the Particle CLI. And now we're building the firmware. And we'll copy all the files over and we'll be good to go. Yep. Oh yeah, skip that part, great. So that should be good now for me to merge. I got the okay. Yep. So I'm going to merge the pull request. I'm going to confirm. Delete the branch. Go back over to master. That'll trigger another build that then goes and creates the tag release. And here these two should now be closed. So it's going through the whole process again, but now in master. And in the meantime, we come over here locally and check out master and pull. Cool. So when this is done, I'll get a new release here in this list that'll actually include those items, which will be cool. Creating the GitHub release, so that's unique now because this is a master. Finalized, success, everything good to go. So now we have a brand new release. Number 27, here are the items. Adding logic variables, closes those two. And we got a binary, so good stuff. So the Azure pipeline still working, still doing its thing, and we had some additional issues that were closed out here, which is great. So the next thing I'm going to do here is actually separate my intervals for reading temperature and posting the cloud. So I'm going to post every, like, we'll have to do maybe every 2 minutes instead of every 30 seconds, which is what's happening right now, right? So I have a temp interval. I read the temperature every 5 seconds, but I need to actually add another one of these, and I'm going to call it post interval, something along those lines, right? But I'll do that next time. I'm actually just about out of time today, and again, I apologize for those of you that wanted to view the stream live. I was hoping to do this live. It's not as much fun if I'm just doing this by myself. But I still am going to post this recording, and I'll try to figure out my issues for next time. But thank you all for watching if you're watching later, and hopefully you learned something. I definitely did, as I usually do. So have a great rest of the day. Bye.